I'm going to call this special meeting of the Board of Equalization of Oklahoma County to order. Today is Friday, May the 30th, 2025. We have a full house, Mr. Brett Town.
Present.
Ms. Teresa Sellers. Present. And I'm Eleanor Thompson. And notice of this meeting was properly posted May the 28th, 2025. So this is decision day. Today we have 8 items on the agenda, prior minutes, and 7 decisions. So item 1, discussion and possible action regarding the minutes of our meeting of May 23rd, 2025.
If there's no changes, or I move to approve item number 1.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, first item up for decision, BOE number 115. This is Materials Packing Corporation, 6500 South Sunny Lane. The assessor, excuse me, had it valued at $3,965,576 or $83 a square foot. And the property owner would like for us to value this at $2,300,000. Okay, so that there's 9 acres. There's no dispute about the land. He thought the land was probably underpriced, but he's not complaining about that. I'm not familiar with this company. I did look at that. He thought because it's not a brick or concrete building, it's a metal building, that somehow it should be valued less. Now I have $2,950,000. Was that the year before?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's 24.
So this was a substantial 40% increase.
Taxpayer did say he would agree to $3,400,000.
But the assessor wouldn't move, so they're only
400.
Yeah.
465.
apart. Well, I'm just not. The issue is going to be whether the value, whether it's too high of an increase from one year to the next. I think the assessor justified how he came up with the value on how he valued based on sales. I don't see a difference in the lack of concrete involved in the building. It's withstanding tornadoes and winds and weather here in Oklahoma, and particularly where it is located, 6500 South Sunny Lane. That could be in Tornado Alley the way it comes through, so it's holding up. The building doesn't look bad, so I don't. It's just a matter of whether you think just the fact of the 40% increase is too much. The valuation was justified, the way the analysis that was done by the assessor. What do you guys think?
Well, I actually looked to see what we did last year on this one, because I thought maybe we had looked at it before, and what I found is that we did it based off of square feet.
Yes.
Which is where we came up with the 2,950 of the comps. This is what we ended up settling on. It's a pretty significant increase over last year, the 3,965. And I thought that I reran the calculation, but I'm trying to find it because for some reason it's not showing up on this one. So give me just a minute to calculate that.
And I don't remember what the assessor asked for last year. So was the 2,000,009 was something we lowered from what the assessor asked from last year? Do you remember?
I believe we did.
I think
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is owner occupied. And I think from the age of it, we couldn't do the cost method. No, that chart that we have though is limited to residential for percentage increase, right? Or
I
not?
haven't confirmed that yet. That's my assumption. I haven't looked at it. I feel like I need to ask these fellows
Could you repeat the question?
Well, we get a breakdown per township, the increases in property values, but I believe it's residential. I don't think it's.
Yes. Have we provided that to you guys this year? I know that we provided for the whole entire county. I don't know if we provided a breakdown.
They did.
They did?
Now
But
is
the question,
but
is
is that
this limited to residential?
I believe so.
Okay,
I believe so.
I thought so, because there's too much of a variance in the types of commercial enterprises for there to be a standard. You know, your hotels are limited on occupancy and rentals and.
So I did a calculation using assessors comps 1 and 4, which are 23 and 24 comps. The rest of them were all 21 and 22.
Right.
And then I used the taxpayers comp 4 because I thought that was a really good comp. And I come up with calculations that actually less than what the taxpayer is saying he will accept.
Less than the
So,
3-4.
yeah, so I'm inclined to go with the 3-4.
And I looked at it, sort of a compromise between square footages, and I come up with something that's over 3-4, about 3,680,000. When you look at what the taxpayer is proposing per square foot and what the assessor is proposing, the assessors are proposing about $83,
Between the two.
Between the two.
and the taxpayer is proposing about 71, 72.
I'm good with that.
So I looked at 77, 3,688,000.
Okay.
I think that's a good compromise.
Okay. So I'd like to move on agenda item 2, BOE 115, that we set the fair market value at $3,688,000.
I'll second.
How do you vote, Mr. Town?
Yes.
Ms. Sellers?
Yes.
And I vote yes. So it's set at 3,688,000. Okay, next item 3 on the agenda is BOE number 116. This is North Broadway Real Estate LLC on South Broadway in Edmond. And the taxpayer's asking for $1,003,000, which really is which is the taxable value. The assessor is at $2,344,652. The sales average was $5,007,000, and the acreage is valued at $287,277. So in 24, I have $1,303,000.
Yep.
Okay, so this is a substantial increase as well. Unless you've got severe damage, loss of income, vacancies, I can't see asking for no increase over last year. So the question is whether that increase is too much. It's going to be the same issue as it was before.
Yeah, the assessor based his off of an income approach using the sub-market area, which I didn't consider the comps at all, because if you consider the comps, it comes in quite a bit less. It comes in at about 1,745. But a couple of his comps were bad. One was 2025 and one was 22. So I again ran a calculation based off of square footage just for comps 1, 2, and 3. And I came up with a value of $1,983,333.
I could go with that. I think the land is undervalued
Yes.
at this point. And that's a kind of a tricky area. You have some high dollar properties, and then you have some that are starting to be distressed. You've got one property in there that's been vacant for about 8 years. It's an old restaurant. I think it's the Australian one. Anyway, it's kind of a mix, but I'm valuing it at $2.15 is significantly undervalued. So I could go with the $1.9 million.
Okay, so I'll make a motion on BOE 116, item number 2 on the agenda to set the fair market value at $1,983,333.
I'll second that.
Ms. Sellers, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Mr. Towns?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, item 4 on the agenda, BOE number 117. This is the old Castle Lawn and Garden in Hera. The assessor began at 1,000,004 plus and ended up at 1,220,000. The year before, it had been 919,000. And the taxpayers asking for 700,000. So this is built in 2009, which is too old to do the cost. And so the income, I've got 1,203,843.
That was, I think, the taxpayers.
He would.
Oh, no, that was assessors.
That was assessor's
Yeah.
income approach.
Yeah.
I've got 820,000 if it was done by lease value. So, with the difference in the square footage is,
I looked at this as a sales of the structures and then the land. The land at $18,000 an acre is, I think that's probably true. Certainly not $2,000 an acre being a commercial property. But I looked at the property per square foot at $47.85, and then the land at $18,437, and came up with the $1.2 million, and which is close to the assessor's valuation based on an income approach. So when I see the income approach and the sales approach being close, I think that's probably a pretty fair valuation.
The 1,220.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm fine with that. I kind of was all over the place on this one. I did several different calculations, but even looking at the building comps, that come close to that 1,220. So I did.
Okay. So I'd like to move on agenda item number 4, BOE 117, and we set the fair market value at $1,220,000.
I'll second.
How do you vote, Mr. Towns?
Yes.
Ms. Sellers?
Yes.
I vote yes. Okay, the next item on the agenda, item 5, which is BOE number 118. The assessor has this valued at $1,415,000, down from his initial valuation of $1,502,558, and the taxpayer wants us to value it at $800,000. I think he understood from the sales approach it would be $950,000, which is still substantially lower than what the and the cost to get $991. That's getting closer. The assessor has the sales approach at $1,418,000 and the income at $1,410,000. So sales, that's quite a bit apart on the sales value. What did you have the acreage valuation on this one, Brett? Because I've got 2.54 and 1.62, or 162,000.
One of them was the property owner was $2.36, and
right.
the assessor was $3.72. So I looked at this. I just looked at splitting that difference and going with $3 a square foot,
Okay.
and then the value of the building at $1,035,000. I came up with $1,366,659.
Yeah, I actually just did a calculation on something else, and I was pretty close to that as well. I did the average between the comps of 1, 3, and 5, which were the best comps, and the income analysis, and I came up with 1,003,000 we're something really close, 1,000,035. So I'm good with yours. The one, what'd you say,
366,659.
659.
Mhm.
And that's item number 5. So I'd like to move on agenda item number 5, BOE 118, and we set the fair market value at $1,366,659.
I'll second.
How do you vote, Mr. Town?
Yes.
Ms. Sellers?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, item 6 on the agenda is BOE number 119. This is the 805 on Coffee Creek. The assessor began at $2,031,000 plus and ended up at $1,431,275. And the taxpayer started out at $972,926 as the income valuation, but I have here that he could go to $1,141,670. This is the one where we were splitting at 52/48 or 50.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that was sort of problematic in this was the property taxes had not been
They were
removed
backed
in
out.
the
Yeah.
assessor's valuation. Is this the one, did we ask the assessor to bring a recalc on that? I don't know if we did or
I
not.
think his argument was that
was
even
still
with that,
lower.
it was still,
Because of the
this
reserve.
was still good. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
That's true. Yeah.
Right. And there was one other. And he said yes because he said he had it in the reserves. Trying not to take them together, but so this the taxpayers at 1,141,000 and the assessors at 1,431,000. Not that far apart, actually.
Well, and last year was $2,031, $2,031,988.
So he's made a concession
So the assessors dropped it down quite a bit.
based on the vacancy.
Yeah.
I'm going with the assessor on this. What do you think, Brett? I think it's too high.
I can go with that. I'm only $150,000 in a calculation difference, so
Yeah, I'm about that as well because I was going to just cop out, take the average between the two.
Okay.
So I'm good with the assessors.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion on BOE 119, item number 6 on the agenda to set the fair market value $1,431,275.
and I'll second that.
Ms. Sellers, how you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Town?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, now item 121, which is, item 7 on the agenda is BOE 121, and it's the other part of, this is 775 Colbell. The assessor started at $2,051,650 and dropped to $1,431,255. And the taxpayer is at $1,141,670. This one was $2,288,784 in 24, so it dropped 23. So it's dropped again.
24 was the same as the assessor's original.
205.
Oh,
2.0051. Okay. So I think I'll stay with the assessor on this one, like we did on the other.
I agree.
I mean, it's the same argument.
It's the same
The properties are almost identical, so I concur. So I'd like to move on agenda item 7, BOE 121, set the fair market value of this property at $1,431,255.
I'll second.
Mr. Town?
Yes.
Ms. Sellers?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, the last item on the agenda is BOE number 120. This was a residence. The assessor began at $667,000 and dropped to $654,000. The taxpayer is at 560. And I finally asked him what was his real issue. Was it the valuation or was it the taxes? And he said, really, it was the taxes. Also, he would not, I'm going with the assessor on this one for this reason. The taxpayer couldn't get it in his head, the owner, that the effective age of the house was altered due to the second story addition that he made. And he thought because he didn't alter the first floor, that it was virtually the same house. And I don't know how to explain that to him. If he can't understand, he made a second story and added 2 rooms, didn't add a bathroom, that it was going to make a difference in the valuation of the house. He just couldn't get it. So,
Yeah, the only thing that concerned me on this one though with the assessor's valuation is that they did show 5 bathrooms and he really only had 4 and the assessor conceded to that.
right.
And there was about a 3% adjustment, I believe, on that. I did the math on it, and backed that out. And then the
The one
assessor,
bathroom.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. And then the assessor actually had 2 sets of comps, 3 comps and a 5 comp.
Right.
And then the taxpayer actually had some pretty, obviously he was arguing for his comps as well. So I kind of ran it several ways. 631,000 on the 3 comp with the back adjustment, 636,843 with the 5 comps, and then using one of the taxpayers' comps, I came up to 629,700. So I can go with. I'd like to reduce it a little bit just to make the allowance for that bathroom.
Okay.
But-
What did we finally decide about? Was the neighbor's house a comp or not?
I was only going to use one of the taxpayer
Okay.
comps. I didn't use all of them.
Right.
I'm trying to remember which one. I don't know that it was it wasn't that $400,000 comp.
Right.
I agree. That wasn't about the comp.
Okay. What did you do, Brett?
I felt like we needed to do some type of adjustment because of the rest of the bathroom. So 629.7.
Okay.
With that.
So I'll make a motion on BOE 120, item number 8 on the agenda to set the fair market value at $629,798.
I'll second that.
How do you vote, Mr. Town?
Yes.
Ms. Sellers?
Yes.
And I vote yes. 629,798. Right?
Yes.
629,798. All right, that was the last one on the agenda. We have any public comments? We're set for next week for Tuesday and Friday. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.